Before you watch this video, make sure you watch our previous video. A link will be in the description. This is a second part. In the video previous, we talk about the importance of reading your dyno sheet. We kind of go over what to look for, what velocities you should focus on. And in this video, we're going to talk about how we acquire that data and why it's important to know the parameters on how your shock was dynoed. For example, we send you a dyno sheet on this shock, you run it once or twice, a buddy of yours in town has a shock dyno, you take it over there to dyno it, and whoa, the numbers are way different. We're going to show you why those numbers potentially are different. So this is a Rohrig dyno, but back in the spring we switched everything to CTW software. So this is kind of in our R&D bay, it's a bit of a mess, and most of our machines for production work are all the CTW machines now, but this is a really good machine. And CTW just updated it to some of their stuff and we run their software. So if it's on a different brand of dyno, that can vary slightly. Rohrig and the CTW stuff is really, really close. We back-to-backed all that as we were doing the switch. Some of the other brands might vary a little bit, but the biggest difference is the speed that you're dynoing it at, the displacement you're dynoing it at, how you zero the load cell, and what your warm-up procedure is. So all of our stuff outside of a quarter midget shock, we dyno at 2-inch displacement. So on a standard crank dyno, that thing's gonna move 2 inches. If the dyno you're comparing it to does it at 1-inch displacement, the graph is gonna look different due to the rate of acceleration. Rate of acceleration also plays a factor on the speed you're dynoing the shock at. So we do everything at CVP, which is a continuous velocity plot. There's also a PVP, not nearly as well liked or used in our industry. Some other industries use a PVP. But the CVP test, as I'm going to show you, we'll dyno this shock that's in here for rebuild, so it might not look beautiful, but we'll dyno it at 6 inches per second first, and then we'll dyno it at 10 and show you the difference, and we're not going to move any adjusters. So at this point I've selected my test, the load cell has been zeroed, okay? And now we are going to run this test. Now, right now it's doing a warm-up. We warm it up to a certain temperature, and then it's going to do the data acquisition run. So we'll just look at force versus average velocity first. So it plotted that graph, and we're not going to touch anything, and we're just going to select a little bit faster test. So you can see, same exact shock, different graph. And we'll put a PDF of these graphs on the screen so you can get a little bit of a closer look. Out at high speed it looks the same, but at low speed, again, due to that rate of acceleration on a crank style dyno, your low speed looks substantially different. If we look at the true graph, force versus absolute velocity, it looks a lot different. Our clamp number is similar, but our rebound to open number is almost double at 1 inch per second. So then that would pose the question, why dyno at different speeds? Basically due to data acquisition we've ran on cars and knowing what velocities we typically see, that's the need for varying speeds. We want to dyno it as close to race-like conditions as possible. So a wing sprint car, for example, we typically dyno those at 6 inches per second. The shocks don't move nearly as fast on a wing sprint car as they would a non-wing sprint car. Same thing, pavement, we dyno at slower velocities. If you have one of our shocks and you want to compare it on a buddy's dyno and you're not exactly sure those parameters, shoot us an email. We're happy to share our parameters with you and make sure. I always recommend, if you're going to dyno on a different dyno, as soon as you get the shock from us, unwrap it, put it on the dyno, and use that as your baseline, right? Because it just came from us, it's got no laps. You have our data, get your own data, and then do all your comparison off your dyno because that's what you have access to. As always, if you have any questions, shoot us an email. We're happy to answer those for you, and good luck this season.